This is Eyeturk Podcast, episode 5. Your host, Maaz Belkheir, and today we're going to talk about what are the best businesses for you to start in Turkey. We're going to talk about how the process of establishing businesses in Turkey. We're going to talk about a couple of different businesses or ideas or fields. We're going to cover mostly small and medium-sized businesses for this episode. We're going to talk about general trade, export-import businesses. We're going to talk about services-based businesses like travel agencies, consulting, medical tourism, and car rentals. And we're going to talk about cafes and restaurants. Also, we're going to talk about something which a lot of foreigners think about when wanting to invest in Turkey is real estate investment. So if you have any questions, you can write them in the comments below and we're going to answer them at the end of this podcast. If you're watching us for the first time, this podcast revolves around topics which are interest foreigners about Turkey. We talked about residence permit procedures. We talked about how you can establish a company, about real estate investment, and about scholarships in Turkey and studying in Turkey. So let me just, first I would like to thank everyone who's watching us right now. We're going to be talking in general about these topics, and based on your feedback or your requests, we can dive into details in future episodes. So for an investor who's thinking about investing in Turkey, there are a couple of things which you need to put in mind. When we talk about the businesses and the ideas, whether it's like we're saying, what are the best businesses to start? Meaning that we think that these businesses are best suited for you and that they can be profitable. We're going to talk about the capital required for each kind of business and what is the return on investment that you can expect from the business. Now, here's the thing. Really, it boils down to some external and internal factors. Either it wasn't in Turkey or anywhere else in the world. For example, an external factor can be the coronavirus pandemic, which is something that you don't have any control of, even though that you can take some steps in order to mitigate this challenge. And also there are internal factors. It could be that you did not manage or run the business in the way which you envisioned to do. There are also some details which we're going to cover as we go along. As I said, today we're going to talk about general trade. What do we mean about general trade? Export-import. It's a big business here in Turkey, and it doesn't really require a lot of capital to start. We're going to cover restaurants, cafes, businesses, travel agencies, other services-based businesses, and we'll end with real estate. So to start with the general trade, what do we mean by general trade or import and export? As you know, Turkey is famous for exporting, in terms that this year they achieved their goal of exporting more than $165 billion in value, and they have a plan to increase this amount of exports year by year. And in order to help and encourage investors and businesses, the government is giving a lot of incentives, tax deductions. So it is something which you can use as a way to think that like I will be going into the general trade and import and export business. For those who are wondering what kind of businesses to do, Turkey is currently number one in producing and exporting hazelnuts. It accounts for nearly more than 80% of hazelnut exports around the world. And there is a lot of foreign companies which have established factories in Turkey, and they're exporting from Turkey. Also, in terms of furniture, which is in high demand, Turkish furniture, currently Turkey is in the 8th place in terms of furniture exports around the world. Another thing is that Turkey has a strategic place, and we talked about in the episode about how you can establish a company in Turkey as a foreigner. And if you didn't watch this episode, I recommend you to go and watch it. We covered it. The process is pretty simple and straightforward. You as a foreigner, you are given the same rights as the locals in terms that you can have 100% complete foreign ownership. The process of establishing a limited liability company or a joint stock company can be done on the same day in a matter of hours. The minimum capital requirement is very low, can start from around $2,000 and goes up. You don't need to for limited liability companies, you don't need to deposit all of your capital in the bank, and you can do it within 2 years. Now, when we talk about general trade, since like a lot of businesses around the world look to Turkey for exporting textiles, furniture, hazelnut, and other machinery, you as a general trade or import-export company, you can act as an agent between these factories or Turkish companies and between the foreign investors or foreign companies which are interested in buying from Turkey. Now, there's a lot of different kinds of general trade or import and export companies. For example, there are companies which act as an agent for a specific company. Let's say there's this Turkish factory which is making milk, and this factory doesn't have the time or the resources or doesn't want to take into the import and export business. You as a company, you can make an agreement that you handle all of this for the company based on a commission or a special price. Another type is very popular with foreigners, is to act as an agent between different or several companies and foreign investors. To give you an example, let's say that there's a foreign investor looking to buy Turkish-made handbags, and they're looking for specific requirements, and they have a specific budget. They can ask you as a general trade company to look for good offers for these bags with the specific requirements. Your job will be contacting and coordinating with the different and many Turkish factories here in Turkey and getting an offer. And from experience, I can tell you the process is very simple. Today, you don't even need to physically go to the factory. Most of the factories have websites, emails, phone numbers. You can just contact them and get the information. Of course, later on, you would need to physically examine the product after you get a sample. But in the beginning, in the initial stage, you can just contact them and try to get different offers. So you look for the best offer. you should also look for the quality, because you don't want to lose your reputation with your client. Let's say the client says, I'm looking for something around $30 per bag. They're looking for some great quality at an appropriate price, and they're looking to buy a large quantity. So you look and you find different offers. Let's say you found one of the best offers you found was about $27 per piece. Now, you have two options. Either you share the price, the real price, with your client and say that this is for $27 per piece, and agree on a commission to get from the client. Or instead of the commission, you can just give another price for the client, and usually this is done with an agreement with the company. So instead of taking the commission from the client or taking the money from the client, you make an agreement with the Turkish factory that instead of $27, it will be $29, and the $2 extra per piece will be your commission. You get that done. You handle the taxes. You might also coordinate with cargo companies and ship the products for your client. And this is basically how the business is run. It's very popular here for foreigners because it doesn't really require much capital. You don't need, depending on your business model or what you're planning to do, you don't really need a big office or a strategic location, since you can depend on the internet and online marketing. What I would like to point out is that for all the businesses we're going to be talking about from a marketing point of view, you should always put a percentage of your total capital for marketing. For small and medium-sized businesses, I would say at least minimum from 10 to 20% of your total capital should be for marketing. Of course, this depends on a lot of factors that I cannot tell you that this percentage is correct for all kinds of businesses. Now, what is the rate of return on investment? If I'm planning on opening this kind of business, for how long do I need to wait until I get my money back? Well, it depends, but I would say from a year to two, and really it can take more if there's a lot of invested capital. Of course, you should know that the smaller the invested capital, the less profits you could expect, and the more you invest in your business, the better profits you will get. But also, it would take you more years for you to get the return on your investment. Now, do I need some specific licenses or specific registrations for this kind of business? You don't really need at this point as a general trade company. You can establish your business on the same day and get going. Of course, another point you should consider is that in Turkey, any business can succeed, but there's high competition. Like when you're planning on opening a business, you should decide on the audience, or let's say the customers who you're planning to target. Like, it's better to start or focus on a niche than start and say, I'm going to do everything. You can't do everything at the same time. Usually you will fail. Since this is a very competitive market, and you as a foreigner, you're investing here and competing with locals and other foreigners who've been there for tens of years ahead of you. So you need to consider that it's better if you focus on a niche. So let's say if I'm doing a general trade, import and export, instead of just focusing on all the countries, I might start with a specific region. Let's say I'm from the Middle East, so I'm focusing or targeting investors and companies in the Middle East. Or I'm from Pakistan, and I start by targeting other people in Pakistan. The reason why you would do this is because you would put all your energy and your marketing toward a specific region, and like this you will get more expertise, and your referrals will be better when you're focused on one region. And then in the future you can expand to other regions. The same thing can be said with the services or the products you're offering. For example, if I start, let's say I want to start a consulting company, I cannot start a consulting company on everything. I need to decide on which niche I'm focusing on. Maybe I'm focusing on international trade, that I'm consulting companies in international trade, or I'm consulting restaurants and cafes. In this way, I can expect to get much return and more business when I'm focused in the field, because there are so many other competing companies. So if you're trying to play here and there, you will never become the best at what you do. But let's say I focus on consulting only restaurants. With time, the restaurants will come to me and not to other consulting companies, because they will say, this company is only consulting restaurants. Like, this is the person I need. Now, we talked about general trade, and the next thing we're going to talk about is services-based companies. Also a very popular business for foreigners. Service-based can include consulting companies, can include travel agencies, rent-a-car companies, and many others. For most service-based companies, it's the same thing with general trade. You can open it in the same day. You don't need any specific requirements or a permission from a certain institution to start operating. Now, if I want to open a travel agency, and travel agencies, even with the pandemic, like, we're not really talking about businesses in the pandemic. We're just talking about in general. The travel agency business in Turkey is always booming. Yes, there's high competition, but again, it's really about your target. I can give you an example for a travel agency. Let's say you want to open a travel agency and you want to compete in tours. You want to make tours around Turkey for foreigners. You need to decide on the specific niche of your customers. Like, are you targeting low-income customers, middle-income, high-income? It really matters. I cannot open a business and try to appeal to all levels. Like this, I will not compete with the other companies, or simply the fact that the companies which offer expensive tours, they offer luxurious and the top of the notch service. The same thing, like, if I'm if I'm trying to do this luxurious high-end tours, I cannot make the price competitive with others who are making it cheap. So for me, before I even start, I make my business plan, and if it needs to be, I recommend that you study the market and you study your customers. Where you're gonna open, your location is very important. Your business plan should set out the best case scenario and the worst case scenario for your business. Other thing you need to consider if you're opening a travel agency is that you need a license. It's called TURSAB certificate. It's issued by TURSAB, the Turkish Association of Travel Agencies, and there are specific requirements for you to get this certificate. These specific requirements include the amount of capital of your business. It needs to be at least 100,000 Turkish lira. You need to deposit a certain amount, around 70,000 Turkish lira for grade A. There's like 3 grades, A, B, C. And the difference is that with these grades, you can either sell tickets or flight tickets or hotel bookings, or make tours around the country. And this depends on which grade certificate you get. Another thing is that if you're planning on making tours with SUVs or vans, you also need a special permit from the municipality, and you need an employee with a registration with the TURSAB. So these things you need to consider before you start establishing your company, because it can really set you back if you didn't put them, you didn't have them in mind. So that's the reason why you would need to at least consult with a company about the kind of business you want to open, what is the required capital, and what requirements or what certificates do I need to get in order for me to open and establish this business. Now, another kind of service-based businesses is rent-a-car companies. For you to open a rent-a-car company, it's straightforward. There's only like lately there's a certificate which one of the employees need to get if you want to have a gallery of cars. This certificate is acquired through an exam by the training institution here in Turkey. So this is another thing which you need to keep in mind. Also for the gallery, there is a minimum required space. So another thing which you need to have in mind is how much you're renting, and depends on the area you want to rent. So, for example, if I'm planning on opening a travel agency and my focus will be on issuing flight tickets and hotel bookings, I might want to invest in a very populated touristic area. Yes, it will cost me much more in rent, sometimes 10 times more than if it was in a normal residential area. But of course, like this, I can guarantee that I will be making a return on my investment. Then putting it in an area where there aren't any tourists, and then you're like trying to get customers to come to you. So it really depends on your business model, who you're targeting, and how much capital you're willing to put into the business. So um, we talked about general trade, services based, and we're going to talk a little about cafes and restaurants. So for cafes and restaurants, even with the pandemic now, most of them are closed for for eating in, but they're still working as delivery or stop and take. Uh, but still, if you're thinking in like in for the future, the restaurant industry in Turkey is booming and very profitable, even for foreigners. In Istanbul alone, there's like 16 million, more than 16 million people living here. It's you know the saying, if the whole world was one country, Istanbul would probably be the capital. It's a very cosmopolitan city. It's in a strategic place, really, connecting three different continents. You have access to the European market, Middle East, the uh, Eastern European, Asian part. So for services too, restaurants and cafes are a great choice if you uh, make the right planning. There are things which, for some foreigners, they might not expect in Turkey, for especially for restaurants and cafes. Uh, Usually, for a restaurant or a cafe, you need a strategic uh, location, preferably in the main street with a lot of traffic. These strategic locations usually have a kind of a fixed fee you pay to the person who is currently renting the place. So uh, let's say I find a 500 meter squared uh, place for a restaurant. It can be a like a previous restaurant which is closed, and there is someone who is renting the place. I will need to pay them some money in order for them to leave and for me to start renting that place. This amount is usually high because the market is very competitive. So, for example, I'm planning to open a restaurant in Taksim, for example, and I'm calculating my capital, and I see I might need around, uh, let's say, $100,000 to open the business. And then I'm choosing a location, and I see that I need to pay an extra $100,000 just for the person who is currently occupying the place to leave and give me the place. So this is something you need to consider. Of course, it's not for all places. You might find it directly from the owner and rent it without paying as much. But usually it's for the strategic, really competitive places. Like, you know, like if I'm renting in this place, it's for sure I'm going to be uh, making a good amount of money. Another thing for restaurants and cafes is that you, as a foreigner, you can buy a franchise here, and it can vary from international franchises like Burger King and Domino's Pizza to even local Turkish franchises like Simit Saray and Madu. Now, for you to buy a franchise, it's very profitable and straightforward. In I'm sorry, I mean not straightforward, but it's like it doesn't require that much of planning and managing as an investor. Uh, Basically, what is usually done for franchises, there are some certain requirements and a recommended minimum capital for you to purchase or lease this franchise. So you you study the franchise. You make a meeting with the company which is regulating or giving out these franchises. Let's say we want to open a franchise of a specific, I don't want to mention any specific name, but let's say a famous worldwide fast food chain restaurant. I go and I look at the requirements. I see that I need to have a minimum capital requirement of $200,000. So I look at the requirements and I'm ready, and I go, I make a meeting. So usually the franchise company will take a fee for consulting and finding me the right location for me to open this franchise. It has certain requirements, minimum space, and like you can't really calculate it specifically, but it has to have a lot of traffic for people to come. So usually franchises look for touristic areas or shopping centers because there's a lot of traffic, a lot of people passing by daily. And they can give you the whole process, the whole plan, how many employees you need, and the manager who will be managing your franchise. Also the products, like the food and the stuff which you'll be making, usually they come ready. For a fast food chain restaurant, everything is gonna be kind of ready. So you don't really need to worry about where you can get the products, because they have certain rules. For example, if it's a fast food chain restaurant and you're making chicken burgers, you can't just take the chicken from anywhere. You need to take it from them. So basically, if you look at it, it means that you won't be doing much. You'll be just sitting and watching your business prosper. Of course, you can't just go on and open a franchise and just sit back and relax and think like, all right, like I invested 200K, I'll be getting it back in 2 to 3 years. No, you really need to study the market and to calculate and check your options. Also, you cannot just blindly trust the franchising company to give you all the information. You need a third-party consulting company to go through with the process in order for you to get as much clear information as possible. But in terms of the profitability of the business, it is very profitable. If you don't have much experience in the restaurant industry, opening a franchise is a great option to explore. So I would like to remind you that, like our episodes which we're making, we will be covering other topics, and some of the topics we will be going with details in it. So if you want a specific topic so that we can explore further, you can write it in the comments below. So our last topic is about real estate investment. So it's not really a business, but we decided to include it because a lot of foreigners think like, I'm going to purchase property in Turkey and I want to see how much profit can I make from this, either by selling it later on or by renting it. There are a couple of things you need to put in mind when you're thinking about real estate investment. First, do not fall. And I repeat, do not fall. I stress this. Do not fall for advertisements on the internet, especially by real estate companies, telling you that if you buy this property, you will get a guaranteed purchase by us after 3 years with 35% profit. It's true, but there's a twist. Let's say that I bought an apartment for $100,000 in 2018. At that time, it would probably cost 380,000 Turkish lira. And the company said to me, in 3 years, we are ready to buy it from you with 35% profit. It's guaranteed. It's written on paper. And you're thinking, like, that's great, 35%. Like, what am I losing? But here's the thing. Today, February 2021, they come to you and they're like, we said to you 3 years ago that we'll be ready to buy it. We're ready if you want to take the offer. You wouldn't want to take the offer, because if they're buying it from you now, the 35% is not on the dollar, it's on the lira. So they will be buying it for around 500,000 something lira. So if you convert them to dollars, it's $73,000. So you, as a foreign investor, instead of earning 35% profit after 3 years, you're actually losing 27% on your investment. So this is one thing. And also, I'm not saying that because the currency might lose its value, that your investment will lose the value. If I put the property for sale on the market, depending on a lot of factors, whether it's in a populated area, whether there are shopping centers, whether there is potential for the area to prosper in the future, I might sell it for $120,000. I might sell it for $100,000. I might sell it for $90,000. It really depends on a lot of factors. So when I see an advertisement telling me that it's a guaranteed offer, that we would buy it from you for 35%, I wouldn't buy into that. I would consider other factors. Another thing, if you're buying a property which is still under construction, you need to make sure that the company which is building this property has a good reputation of delivering on time, because a lot of foreigners fall into this trap where they expect they will be getting their apartment ready by the end of the year, and then they wait for 2-3 extra years. And usually these companies, they include it in their buying contract, that in case something like this happens, you can't even sue them because you've already agreed on it. So these are the things you need to consider. Also, you can make a profit out of buying the property and selling it afterwards, but it's not as straightforward as what you might get from the real estate companies. Another thing, people think about renting the properties, and the rent here is it really depends. Let's say I buy a property for $80,000 and I'm thinking of renting it. I look at the market and I see that the rent is from $300 to $400 per month, depending on its location, if it's furnished or not. So I look and I see that I will be getting 6% at the end of the year as profit. But if I put it in the market as a monthly rent, a touristic daily monthly rent, like someone can come and rent it just for a month, then I look and I see, for example, again, that it's around $900. So in this way, I might be making 13.5% return. It's more than double. But the difference is that the the yearly rent is more guaranteed, because someone who's going to rent from you, they're going to sign a contract that they will be renting for a year. While if it's monthly, then people will, like, you might get a month, two, especially in the summer or seasonal, and then you won't be renting it. These are the things you need to consider. So we came at the end of our video. As I said, we will be taking your questions, if you have any questions. Also, if you feel like you need more information on a specific topic, then we will include it in our future episodes. Also, we are free for taking your suggestions at any time. You can call us at the company if you need any kind of consulting. All right, I would like to thank you so much for watching us. Stay tuned for next week's episode. And until then, we'll see you. Thank you. Have a nice day.